If you're driving, please keep your hands at 10 and 2 as we bring forth and welcome from I Love New Haven, a slogan that Prestige and I scream out regularly. Put your hands together for the amazing photographer and, no joke, phenomenal human being known as Chris Randall. Welcome, sir. Bienvenue.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, welcome. You know, it's always a fun thing, and one of the things that I truly do love about this city is the amazing personality that it has. And for those who are not fortunate or unfortunate enough to kind of like live here, depending on the day, being able to give a visual perspective is so super important. I mean, I still remember like those incredible photos of historic events. You know, you're always going to remember the picture of the plane hitting the tower. You're always going to remember, those amazing images of, that dog thing with Sarah McLachlan playing in the background makes you want to love all those puppies. What got you involved and invested in the visual art form of photography?
That's a good question, and I didn't really actually start this part of my artistic expression or career until later on in life. I was 35, I'm 48 now. But it's interesting because when I was a kid, my father had a nice Minolta 35 millimeter camera, and I was really interested in it, but I just never had my own camera. I never really pursued it. But and then like as I got older, I'd have some friends that became photographers, and they had their like art shows and exhibits, and I was like, wow, that looks really cool. So I don't know what happened, but when I was 35, I finally got a camera, and Google, YouTube. We were involved in a project called the Inside Out Project in New Haven, which we pasted over 300 pictures, giant size pictures of people under underpasses, and that wrapped up. And my friend Jeffrey, we both lived on Lion Street at the time. At the time we were both excited by like Humans of New York and another blog like Shoot Tokyo, and so we he had the domain, but he came to me and said, you want to start this, and it kind of took off.
Well, see, this is what I think is so super incredible, because you have all of the formats of I Love New York and all of that stuff. But what made you say I want to show that of New Haven? Because if you go outside of Connecticut, and even some places inside of Connecticut, New Haven has this ridiculous and I think really silly reputation for being more of for the ne'er-do-well. And as much as I love the ne'er-do-well, and I'm going to be as much of a ne'er-do-well as I possibly can be, that does turn some people off sometimes. And here you are showing a real human side of the city. Was this something that you've always seen, or was this something that as your artistic medium grew, so did your appreciation?
Yeah, that's another good question. So, I was born in New Haven, and I was raised in Allentown and West Haven. So my street T-boned into the West Haven side of the West River, and spent a lot of time in New Haven, but didn't actually move here until I was, New Haven proper, till I was like 19 or 20. And it's interesting because I had an apartment in East Rock, and here I am, I'm a 19-year-old, 20-year-old, whatever, young person, and I felt so disconnected from New Haven, right? I saw a lot of like, graduate professionals, Yale students, a lot of, and I just felt at the time, I felt like I didn't belong, right? I ended up, going through some life changes, but ultimately I joined a community garden, and then hooked up with, somebody that was running for office, and how, I started getting involved in my neighborhood and knowing, people and making connections, and then got involved in so many things where I, not only did I feel like I belonged, but I felt like I was, doing really cool things, making it a better place for not just me, but for everybody. So that kind of evolved over time. But definitely by the time I started I Love New Haven with Jeffrey, I did have that love and appreciation, and I wanted to show it to other people because I knew back then, and even now, there's a lot of I think misperception about what New Haven really is. I mean, I found it a great place to live and to not only belong to community but build community, right? And just there's so much diversity and richness and culture, and there's so much cool stuff going on here that I feel that I'm lucky that I get to like document that.
No, and it's so true because a lot of people, even people who've lived here forever, don't really understand everything that is available for us to. Just depends on what you're willing to do. And I love how you have pointed out that it's, everything is, you get out of it what you put into it. And that is something, especially in this massive digital world, when they want to massage the algorithm, you have to feed into that algorithm as much as you're trying to take out of that algorithm. So if you want your
Sure.
posts to go further, you're interacting on other people's posts and you're doing all these kind of things. But this is not anything that's new. You literally just spoke to us and told us how you broke the algorithm of New Haven by contributing to making it better. You saw changes that were out there. You saw things that needed to be highlighted, and you did that. That is so super important for just life in general. Depending on
Yes.
your situation or whatever, it's so super important. Now, was this a mindset that you had grown up with, or was this something that you just kind of discovered? Were you reading like a Derrida book at one point in time? Where like, yes, grammatology has now shown me the beautiful that is New Haven.
Yeah, no, it just kind of, I guess, happened organically. I mean, when I was a kid, I think that I liked to think of other people.
Mm-hmm.
Then I took a diversion. Uh, I got lost in about a 14-year deep hole of alcoholism and drug addiction, where I was
Okay.
very, selfish and self-centered and destructive, and um, but when I stopped that, over 20 years ago now, at this point, I started to, I think, reconnect with that younger version of myself that did appreciate other people and was altruistic and wanted to contribute to the world. And just being involved and meeting so many people and feeling the love that I feel like I owe New Haven a lot. It's totally transformed my outlook, my perspective, my fulfillment. So I owe New Haven. I owe the people of New Haven. Um,
Well, before we go any further, I just want to thank you for being honest. And I also want to celebrate that 20 years of sobriety for you. I think that's absolutely amazing. And I
Thanks.
also like, no, of course, no, that's a super accomplishment and one that I do not take lightly at all. I will poke fun. I will make jokes, but that is one of the coolest things out there. And one of the things I'm noticing more and more and more is it's those situations that make us appreciate the
Mm,
smaller situations so much more. And I think I don't know. I'm not a photographer. My art forms are in different aspects of it, but I think that's one of the things that helps you appreciate that moment so much more and the beauty in that moment because a couple of years ago, 20 years ago, 2 decades ago, that moment wasn't promised to you. And you had to
right.
fight hard and you continue to fight hard every single day to capture that beauty of every single moment. I talk about it a lot that I believe a true artist's soul sees art in everything and goes about, and can create art in anything. And I think that's what it was. On Monday, we had the amazing Mariah Fielder on, and they were talking about, they had social issues when they were trying to conform to what everyone thought they should be. But the minute that they opened up their soul to realize who they were able to be more free and be more outgoing and understand the art of life so much more. It seems a very similar story for you, can we expand upon that, or are you good with talking about that personal stuff? Either one is acceptable. Don't,
Yeah, I
I don't
mean,
want to pressure.
I'm open. I haven't
Right.
shied away from this.
Hmm.
It's part of my story. It's the truth, and I also believe in, by being open about things like this. It there are other people out there that were in the position that I was in. 20 it was I think, yeah, 23 years ago. That I think it's I guess up to me to help show hope to
Hmm.
people, right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, when I started acting, as if, you know, um, I was that person, because I was, in getting involved in I Love New Haven and artistic expression. And, um, it's interesting because some of my most iconic New Haven images, and I've sold a lot of pictures, I've prints, licensed images, like some of my most iconic stuff was taken in the era of when I started around between 2010 and 2012.
Hmm.
But it wasn't until I really started um, you know following that
Hmm.
calling or path, or whatever you want to call it. But I think some of my best stuff was made in the era of when I just started out.
And that's so super true with all sorts of creative aspect of it. I mean, I still look back at lyrics that I wrote, back in the day when I was confused and a teenager, and be like, wow, I was on to something here, or
Yeah.
wow, I was on something here. And I'm not quite sure, which one that kind of falls upon, but it's in its
Right.
rawest form that art usually hammers away the most.
Right.
I've seen some of the most professional photographers with these ridiculous setups not be able to take a picture that has the same type of raw emotion that
Hmm.
somebody on their, iPhone, or, Samsung. We're right now we're looking for, if iPhone and Samsung would like to endorse either I Love New Haven or this show behind the brand, please feel free to hit up Prestige, because I'm not going to answer my email. Um, but that's the whole point, is
Hmm.
sometimes, because you don't know the rules that you're breaking, there's so
Exactly.
much more freedom to just um, treat the rule like a statue, and you're a pigeon, as we can say properly on the
Right.
air. Yes,
Yeah. No,
love how I snuck that one in there. Um, but it's so true, and I love that you fully understand that. But also, I've seen your work from the beginning to what goes through now.
Mhm.
You haven't lost anything, bro. Like, let's be real. You
Thanks.
have evolved. There's still
Yeah.
depth and there's still emotion in what you do, and I think it's
Mhm.
because it's truly aligned with who you are. So I just want to give you your flowers for that right now, and
Thank
and
you.
and thank you. Of course, of course.
Appreciate that.
Now, how scary was it in the first couple of years, in that 2010 2012 year, to kind of transition full time into a career in art? Because, like, I mean, ramen is still rather inexpensive, but it was a lot less expensive back then.
Right.
And how did you survive on a ramen diet is pretty much what we need to tell the people.
Yeah, I mean, another good question. I mean, I look at, even now, I look at my life and, like, how do I even make, how am I making a living doing this? Like, how that does
Hmm.
it still baffles me, right? But even back then, when I was just starting out, it's like it was tough, right? It
Hmm.
really was. And yes, I ate ramen a lot. I mean, I remember one time I helped a neighbor who was like away, and I shoveled their sidewalk, and they were connected to a farm and gave me this big hunk wheel of cheese of cheddar, and that was like what I ate for 2 weeks, and um, yeah, but so I Love New Haven caught on, and through that I built an audience, and developed relationships with clients and got paid work, and now I like, wow, um, I haven't had to eat a cheese wheel or pasta or ramen because I needed
Hmm.
to in a long time, but I just kind of had faith that if I just kept at it, it was gonna work out, and it
Well,
did.
and
So,
I, well, no, definitely, and it's doing incredible, and I definitely want to highlight that in that journey for all those that are doubting themselves, that are getting
Sure.
really sick and tired of getting up. Again, we don't pour any salt in anyone else's hustle. If you are meant to get up and punch a clock, I hope you punch that clock and you're content and you're the best person in that position, and it fills your heart and fills your soul. But for the other people out there that it drives them absolutely crazy to have to play someone else's dream,
Right.
they need to hear that this guy, not only that, but in the art field, you literally kind of threw up the finger and was like, no, because we'd hear all the time, if you haven't made it by 20 something, you're not pretty enough anymore to make it, especially in the arts and entertainment aspect of it. You know, we forget that Meryl Streep, no matter how old she is still one of the best actresses in the history of acting.
Sure.
You know, and you know, Dane Judi Dench. Wow, I almost really butchered that name. Can slay any type of performance, you know, and it's because of that years of the seasoning and all those different aspects. So what was that like facing that ridiculous ageism that falls about in the creative world?
Sure. I mean, that was tough. I mean, I think so. I mean, you probably know, like, there are a lot of egotistical artists, right? There are a lot of open, welcoming artists too. And I remember everybody that encouraged me and helped me, but you know, there was also, you know, a lot of people that I think, I don't know if it was that they felt threatened what I was putting out with, or my, I don't know, but you know, there was a lot of that I, you know, had to kind of, I guess, tune out and just keep moving forward through. You know, and I don't know, it's like at a certain point, my work and my audience just spoke for itself, and I didn't need to justify why I was on the scene, or, you know, I mean, I was there, and here I am. I think some people might have thought back then I was just like this flash in the pan, or who knows what, but you know, here I am, 12, 13 years later, and I'm thriving off of photography, you know.
Right.
Yes, you are. WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven, myself, Prestige, and my partner in crime at Long Island Rays, Elm City, Made Easy. Who's going to ask you a question right now? Go ahead.
Yes, no. Well, that's, I think, one of the coolest aspects too is, you know, for me in particular, it's the punk rock in me. You know, when someone says I can't do it, that makes me want to do it so much more. I was
Definitely.
I was 30 years old when I joined the military. You know, I was massively out of shape, and I could see people waving at me on a map with how strong my glasses are. And everyone's like, there's no way you're going to do this. There's no way you're going to do this. And then that little dude jumped on my shoulder and like, prove them wrong. So anytime that they've thrown in that type of aspect, at least in my soul, it calls me to be like, all right, cool. I love that this person doubts me here, because man, those words are going to taste so good when I'm where I need to be, or where I'm content and happy. Did you have that same type of feel, or was it more just, I completely understand that this is what it's going through? And then a caveat on that, how were you able to maneuver through some of those dark moments that it is to be creative without the crutch of substances?
Yeah, that's okay. So the two questions.
Two questions.
Yes, yeah, yes. People, you know, people's discouragement, or whatever you want to call it, did fire me up more to persist and to, you know, to build and to be better, and to, you know, show what I can do. You know, you know, that's a good question. I mean, there's definitely, you know, I think part of, you know, being an artist is tapping into, you know, all of that stuff, especially the dark stuff, right? In a lot of ways, it's an outlet for that. You know, in a lot of ways, I think, especially with I Love New Haven, because that always has been and still continues to be a all volunteer project. You know, for example, one year it was Valentine's Day, and I didn't have a Valentine. I just was like all down in the dumps. And I turned it into a thing. I walked around downtown, and I had like construction paper and colored pencils and crayons, And basically I asked people to write draw Valentine's Day cards to the city of New Haven, you know, and they did. And not only like was that a really cool post, but it got me out of myself and it connected me to people around me. And it, you know, so a lot of times I think or like sometimes I'll do, you know, the humans or, you know, people on the street and their surprising facts series, right? Every single time I start those stories or those posts, you know, before I even take a picture in my head, and it still happens, like nobody's gonna let me take their picture. I'm not gonna be able to do this. I don't know how this is gonna work, whatever. But when I, you know, put one foot in front of the other and I take the action and I do the thing, you know, magic happens, right?
Right. And again, that really does speak to that whole thing. You're 100% putting in and getting out the same amount. And is that one of the things? Now, I could be wrong here, and this could just be my memory being shot. But if I remember correctly, one of the brightest parts of the pandemic was flipping through Facebook, and there were these pictures of just people hanging out on their porches.
Yes.
And it was such a relief to see actual happiness in humanity in a time where we were all digital, and some of us were going a little bit crazier than others. Was that one of those things that inspired that for you as well? Or was like, look, I just have to go out and I have to drive. You know, I used to go out and listen, you know, put together a playlist of local artists and just walk the streets of New Haven, trying just to try to find community. And then here it is, I'm scrolling through the Book of Face, and you're showing me that community is still there. Not only is it still there, but it's loving. So again, thank you for that.
Of course.
Two, is that what inspired that to happen? Yeah,
because, you know, so everything shut down. We have this new thing called COVID, and nobody knows what's going to happen. But I no longer, all of my weddings, all of my events, all of my work, just whoosh, I had nothing. And I was so terrified, incapacitated. I was just like, I think for the first 2 days, I just laid down in bed all day. And I'm like, you know, I was incessantly reading about COVID, which didn't help because nobody had any answers and everybody had, you know, it was all speculation. And I just felt so crippled. And then something, I don't know how I thought about it, but, you know, I knew that a lot of us were in that same predicament. And so I put a post out there. I called it Portraits, like PORCHRITZ, like, you know, and got over 100 people that wanted, you know, filled out a Google form and wanted me to come out there. And so for the next, I think, I don't know, 7 days, like that's all I did all day. You know, Teresa, God bless her, you know, my partner in life and business. She would drive me around and I had this list and I'd try and like maximize my route because I was going all over the city but connecting with people that were in the same boat as me and us, right? And so I get that a lot of people felt uplifted or connected through that, but I mean, it really doing that saved me, you know, from the rut I was in.
And that's one of the truest keys and forms. And I was speaking to all the creatives that are out there right now that are listening to this, hopefully with their pens and their notebooks out to try to get that one granule of knowledge. You truly want to be successful at something. You do it for yourself first, especially if it's the arts. Do it to soothe your soul because you can't heal everyone. It's just that horrible like new metal band, Stabbing Westward, once said, "I cannot save you. I can't even save myself. So save yourself." That's right. I quoted Derrida and Stabbing Westward in the same episode. I'm on fire today. But it's very true. You know, you went and you did something to heal you, and it, you know, the repercussions, the dropping of that stone of your own healing gave all these ripples. And that's something that truly does happen on an everyday basis. And it is something that the arts are really, really there for. I say it all the time. As the arts thrive, we thrive as a community, we thrive as a species, and it's so super important. How are you maneuvering, especially with the advancement of technology, where it's not just no longer film and all this other stuff? And I get it that you came in more towards the digital era, but still, you know, how are you continuing to evolve? And is it really the machine or is it the eye?
Right. I mean, that's, you know, we're certainly living in interesting times, right? With the advent of AI and even computational photography on cell phones now, right? So it's interesting to be alive now, and it's you know, I think exciting and as equally terrifying, right? Because you know, I don't know, but I don't know when photography did the shift to digital, all the film people said, "Oh, that's it. It's done. You know, photography's over as a career. Forget about it." You know, when they went from like, you know, medium format, you know, 4x5s to 35 millimeter film, the same thing happened, right? I think, you know, I think with any technological advancement, sorry, I'm just getting a call, but I think
no
we're
worries.
good. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine. That's good.
I should have
pause.
Okay.
Extra drama right there. You're like, with any advancement, pause, 2, 3, 4. Now go. You got this.
Well, you know, there's that threat or that fear, right? But the people that make it through to the other side embrace the technology or the advancement, right? So, you know, I've messed around with AI somewhat, and I know there are some photographers that are incorporating elaborate backdrop sets into actual, you know, like composites, right? I mean, that's an interesting thing. You know, and I think at least for now, you know, we're still going to need that human perspective, right? And I think that that's what takes the picture, is the vision of the artist. For now, I mean, there, you know, who knows, in 100 years, there might be like omnipresent cameras all over the place that could create an image out of anything, anywhere, anytime, of any moment. I don't know. You know, how do we maneuver through that? I don't know, but it's an interesting thought experiment for sure.
No, it definitely is, and it's something that you actually see throughout history, whatever the medium. I you know, I remember having those conversations when, you know, it switched from the 8-track to the cassette, you know, and you know, now you have blank cassettes, and they're gonna steal our music, so now there's an extra tax on your blank cassette, so that dude that was just buying it to get bird sounds is paying money into ASCAP, you know. And then you saw that evolution from CD, you know, from tape to CD, and then from CD to digital, and now we're here now, and artists are getting in that vein and avenue, getting messed over as much as humanly possible, because the business side has kicked in and there's no pushback. So that brings me to this next incredible topic. Do you celebrate the writers and actors strike, you know, more because you understand what digital can do to your medium? Because that's really what I see it as, is they're standing up for, like, I hope they do good, because now there's going to be something on the record books that musicians can go up and be like, hey, the actors put this into law, and this law will now benefit me. So that's why I'm with them. Plus, you know, chaos and burn it all down is ingrained in my DNA. Do you also see it like that? And is there something that you can maybe spin a little bit of wisdom on?
Yeah, well, I don't know about the wisdom part. I mean, I could try or say what I think about that, but I mean, yes, I support them, and I'm with them a billion %, right? And I definitely see how, you know, it you know, can affect industries like ours, right? But if you think about it, like these studios have been like scanning people for a long time now. It's not just now they're doing this, but it's like now it's just that easy, and I guess they want to do it like to everyone. And I don't know. And it's interesting because this technology is advancing. As often what happens with technology, like the courts can't even keep up with this, and the people that are making the laws, right, are trying to regulate this. They're so out of touch with, I think, technological advancement that's scary too, right? Look at how old the people making our laws are, statewide, nationwide, and it's like, I don't know. I mean, but it does scare me that, these corporations have this much control that they're, exerting or trying to, and where does it stop? Right.
Well, no, it's so true. But that also, to me, I believe kind of like what Simon Pegg believes. I don't know if the audience doesn't know who Simon Pegg is, again, email Preston, he'll tell you all about him. But Simon Pegg says, AI art is just, it's okay. It's really good, mediocre stuff.
Right.
Don't be mediocre. And there won't be as much thing, because you can't have that feeling aspect. I've not looked at any type of AI image and felt like it hasn't hit me in the heart and I'm like, oh my goodness. It's one of the things, like, I don't pour salt on anyone else's hustle. I actually really appreciate AI because of I look at the art form that goes into creating it. All of those ones and zeros and how that person's mind had to work to get there. I appreciate, pardon me, that art form. But when it comes to the usage of it, that's where things start to fall apart a little bit, but it also doesn't make me feel.
Right.
And that's something, yeah, go ahead.
No, it lacks depth. It lacks soul, like real depth, real soul.
Mm-hmm. Well, and actually there was David Bowie had done an interview on MTV when techno music was really starting to get through, and Nine Inch Nails was like just kind of like blowing up. And Bowie was mentioning it, and then are you afraid that now all music is going to go away? And he's like, nah, man. At the end of the day, everybody wants to go home and touch something that's wood, and acoustic music, written music, is wood, and people are going to want to feel something familiar, and that's why it's so important. But again, be responsible and make sure you're putting your heart and your soul into your art every single time. Because that minute you phone it in is the minute the minute the computer wins, is the minute Big Brother comes down and doesn't hand you a check for $750,000, but takes over your life, just like that book 1984. I'm culturally referencing this entire show. I love it. Now, as you continue to go forth and move forward, you've just expanded I Love New Haven a little bit. You brought on some new points of view and some new perspectives. Do you feel free to tell us all about how awesome the new crew is?
Yeah, absolutely. So to preface it, so when we started I Love New Haven, it was me and Jeffrey. We had a guest photographer every Wednesday. I would do 2 posts a week. Jeffrey would do 2 posts a week. Wednesday was the guest photographer. And then throughout the evolution and years of I Love New Haven, we've had other contributing photographers. Gary Winfield was a contributing photographer for a couple years, maybe even 4 years. Lucy Gelman was a contributing photographer for a while. So a lot of people, right? And so, in 2000, I think around 2017, Jeffrey wasn't involved in that point anymore. He kind of stepped back, and it was really just me running the show, which I did for a while, but it's a lot, right? Taking the pictures, making the posts, promoting it, editing, all that stuff. And, then I met Teresa and we fell in love and, started a couple businesses together, and, she has 2 daughters and we have a house. And, so kind of I Love New Haven was there. I mean, I still paid for the hosting and sometimes I would post things. But, I always wanted to bring it back to where it was more than just me involved. Right. And, so the first person that I brought on is a photographer named Takoa Griffith, and she is originally from Buffalo and has been in New Haven for about 6 years. is a great, phenomenal photographer and does a lot of great work and still has connections back to Buffalo and goes back and forth to sometimes work out there and do weddings and things like that. And, you know, she's Black and a woman, obviously. So that's totally a very different perspective, you know, of the world. And as an artistic voice, right? So I'm really excited to bring her on. And Teresa actually helped me recruit her. And then also Electra Morrison, who, you know, if you look at her work, it's like, it's so artistic and different, at least from what I do, right? And, you know, there's like, you know, these retro neons in her work, and you know, a lot of it looks conceptual and really interesting work. And so, you know, and Elle is trans, right? And that's definitely another totally different perspective than one that I interpret the world with, right? And I'm just so excited that we have this team, and I feel really excited about it, and that we're about to take on New Haven all over again. You know, we just did I just got these shirts made up. We did a really fun photo shoot downtown. Yeah, it's just really cool. We have some stuff that we're photographing tomorrow, and just really looking forward to you know, building the next stage of I Love New Haven with them.
And I love how you mentioned how you just got those shirts made up, because it's super important.
Yeah.
Is that going to be the next thing? Is there going to be like some swag, you know, that is available, so that now you can catch somebody walking down the street in like one of the shirts, and now you've increasing your story even further.
Yes. I mean, as a matter of fact, right now there's a tab on the top of our website for t-shirts, right? We sell shirts, tank tops, and hoodies. You know, it's interesting, right? And some, you know, people have bought them, not many, less than 10 so far, but that's okay. And you know, I love New Haven. It's interesting because like I've never, you know, throughout its history, you know, we've said, well, maybe we should sell ads, or maybe, you know, because it is a lot of work, and but you know, I think that would kind of tarnish what I Love New Haven really is. And also,
I don't want to tarnish this show on WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven, because if I tarnish it, I will be off air. So go ahead.
there you go. I appreciate that. Good
So
timing.
good timing.
So, you know, and at the end of the day, I'm a photographer and I'm an artist. I don't want to be an ad salesman, right? You know, that being said, I Love New Haven and the audience that I've built through it has enabled me to like put links to my website and sell prints, right? For instance, like about a month ago, I shared a link to an iconic New Haven photo that I did in 2012, and I wasn't trying to sell these prints, but somebody asked, is there a link available for that website, or, you know, to buy these? And on my Chris Randall Photos website, there is, and I put it there, and 2 people bought prints, right? Right. And then one of those 2 people hired me to photograph their wedding, which is happening next month. Right. So, so I guess I get, you know, I get stuff like that through I Love New Haven, but I'm not, you know, it's more organic marketing. But the shirts, yeah, I'm really excited about. And one of the first places, so I wore the shirt. So my stepdaughters watched Mystic Pizza for the first time last month. And I said, let's go to Mystic, you know, the next day. And we did, right? I wore my I Love New Haven shirt, and we're sitting in, you know, it's funny, before we went to Mystic Pizza, we're walking around downtown, and lo and behold, who do we run into but Rick Consiglio of Sally's Pizza, right? Like Rick's dad started Sally's, right? And him and his family and his brother and his mother ran it. And him and his brother ultimately, until they sold a couple of years ago. But I ran it to him, and you know, we're chatting a little bit. I told him why we're there, and he said, "Oh, I won't say what he said. I won't say what he thought of Mystic Pizza, but I will say that he said that, you know, our secret is safe and he won't tell Worcester Street that we're there, you know, but it was just really, really interesting of all people to run into him. Right. And so, but anyway, so we're in the restaurant and I go to the bathroom and I come out and there's a table of a family that I passed and I noticed the father was like reading my shirt and I said, okay, cool. He's just checking out the shirt. And then 10 minutes later, we were sitting by the door and he went to leave and said, you know, oh, nice shirt. I said, thank you. That's my website. He's like, oh, I know. And then, you know, and then I was like, oh yeah, I'm Chris. He's like, yeah, no, I know who you are, you know, just like that. And then we kind of introduced ourselves formally and just connected like that. And he said, you know, that he loves the work. And, you know, it's weird. It's weird to hear other people's interpretations of my site and my work. Cause I mean, to me, I mean, I know it's a gift for us, right? But for me, it's a very personal thing, right? And, you know, I've heard, you know, I wore this also, I wear the shirt often now. I love it. You know, I wore it to a party and I ran into a woman who, you know, has been here for 10 years, but when she first moved to New Haven in 2014, you know, would visit I Love New Haven and it helped her feel connected to the city that she just moved to and see what else was going on. And, you know, I've heard stories like that. You know, I met, if I didn't have I Love New Haven, I would not have met Teresa either, because in 2014, she reached out to I Love New Haven and said, how do you know about all these cool, exciting events? And I said, you know, maybe it wasn't the most humble thing to say, but I said, well, when you're me, you get invited to these things. Right. And that was, but, you know, I said that and, you know, but I promised to keep her in on the loop, but then like I prepped her profile a little bit and I said, oh, she's kind of cute. And I added her and, you know, and it just, it left, you know, it was there for a while. She was still married at the time with nothing, you know, but that was, you know, it was through I Love New Haven, right? You know, and then, you know, to hear like her experience of I Love New Haven and what it meant to her. And it just means so much to so many people that, you know, it's cool. I don't know how, I can't even put it into words, right?
No, and it's something that is so true, especially I feel it more in New Haven than I felt it anywhere else. I am a transplant. I've been here for about 10 years. And I wouldn't be surprised if you and I have been in the same rooms and just didn't know, you know, because to the point, and we talked about it off air before, I'm just kind of sort of known. And you know, when I was going over your bio, I noticed one of the reasons why I'm known is because of my twin little awesomeness. And you know, we came out here and we would walk through the streets of New Haven. They were 3.5, 4 years old. And, you know, myself and people stop and you know, want to have conversations because there's triplets, as they like to say, because I don't make children, I make clones. And it's something that is just so beautiful and so organic. As you know, you move forward and you continue to grow. How much of it, you know, now that you've gone back and you're doing some part-time stuff, teaching, but not in the aspect of just, you know, going over the bobs and weaves of how things go, but exactly what you shared with us today, you're sharing with that next generation. How important for your journey is it to reach back as you continue to ascend?
I think it's critical. You know, I remember the me when I was first starting out, and I remember everybody that was welcoming and helpful, but I also remember all the people that weren't, right? And I never want to be that person, right? If you come to me with a dream, especially if it's about like photography or pursuing an artistic expression, I'm gonna try and see what I could do to help that dream materialize, right? And you know, I'm lucky. I've done it 2 years now, and this will be my 3rd year. But you know, teaching photography at Co-op High School downtown, which is an arts magnet high school, and you know, to work with it's just incredible, right? I mean, not only like I get to see the world through their eyes, right? How do they see the world, right? What are they bringing to the world, right? What's their voice? What's their expression? And to encourage that and help nurture that, and even just to be a witness to that is incredible.
No, and that's absolutely awesome, and I love, you know, it's almost, this interview is almost so super arts cliche. It's just gorgeous, you know, because you continue to expand as, you know, you understand that it's not just your perspective. It's just not your point of view, you know, by increasing and going back to the roots of I Love New Haven, having other people contributing in, you're getting the different perspectives, because there are certain places that they're not going to tell you that, you know, someone who the living, breathing work of art, as I like to say, and I said it to their face, you know, Electra will go through, and her perspective is so interesting and so nuanced. But you understand, and you're actually growing as an artist by seeing that perspective. It is that give and take. How do you nurture that? Because there's a lot of people that will get into that ego aspect of it. So let's talk to those people. Don't be egotistical. Love everyone's art and you will grow as a human. But I say it and I'm loud and boisterous. You say it and you're actually an educator with a point of reason. So please.
Yeah, I think, you know, if you are an artist and operate from ego, I would like to try and remind those types of artists that they started somewhere too. They didn't know anything at some point too, right? I don't know. For me, I feel like I feel a personal responsibility to help and to help bring up the next generation, because I mean, I'm not going to be here forever, right? And somebody has to fill my role, right? And I love, like, if there's some 14-year-old or even 50-year-old that's like threatening me and what I could do, well, I need to either step up my game or move out of the way and let them take over. You know, that's I need that, right? It's like, I don't ever want to be complacent.
I love that about you, and I'm so looking forward to all the incredible things we're going to do moving forward. But unfortunately, they are pulling the Apollo curtain on us, because I feel like this interview could go on for hours upon hours upon hours. But right now, we want to give you this opportunity. This is your floor. Tell people how they can get in touch with you personally, with I Love New Haven, and what they should do if they do see you out in public. You know, do they jump up and act like a seal, or do they just be themselves?
Yeah, well, either or, whatever they want to do, whatever resonates with them, I guess. But, you know, I'd welcome an interaction, right? You know, you can go up, ilovenewhaven.org is our website. I don't know if you can get that, but I just got these made up. That goes to our link tree. You know, that's all our socials, you know, but, you know, that you could find at our link tree. You know, we're on Facebook. We have almost 20,000 people that follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, I guess Twitter. I don't know what you call that anymore, but TikTok. We even have Pinterest and MySpace, but I don't really publicize that. But, you know, we're there. We're everywhere. Just reach out if you have an idea for a story, or if you want to just connect, have a question about photography, please reach out.
Okay.
Chris, we do appreciate you being with us on Behind the Brand. Sorry, I was a little bit mute for the rest of the interview. I'm in a loud restaurant, but we do appreciate the time. Myself, Prestige, and my partner in crime, Long Island Rays, LC made BlueZ, and we'll get you back on, Chris. Be well. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks for having me. I loved our talk.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
It was an honor and a privilege. Just so you know. And like I said, I do look forward. You know, you and I are going to have many conversations. We're filling the time until the music jumps in, so we're still going to talk. We're still going to talk.
Oh,
PG-ish.
Sure.
But no.
Thanks for the reminder.
I got this. I'm good. I'm somewhat good at this. I'm not. I don't plan. I don't practice. But I love to have this interaction and this conversation. As you do continue to move forward, please feel free to hit up the show at any point in time. I know myself and Prestige will be hitting your website so we can start rocking some of your stuff out, because we're going to be taking this a little bit more on the road. as well,
Cool.
showing up to different events and stuff, doing some spot interviews. And I want to make sure that we fully represent y'all as well. And hopefully our paths will cross in the spaces we are going to be. I know like next Thursday, there's that incredible house show where history is going to be made in New Haven again. So I hope to see one, if not all three, out for something like that, and all those different type of aspects. I think it has been an absolute incredible journey. And are there any events for those last people hanging on right now? Because this has just been such an amazing thing. And again, thank you so much for it. Are there any events that you are looking forward to as we're coming into September where, who knows, maybe you could be there? You know.
Yes, I'd have to look at my calendar for specifics. I mean, I know tomorrow. I mean, sometimes I'm just like today and next day, right? But
yeah, that's
tomorrow there sale. New Haven is having an open sale at Canal Dock Boathouse from 1 to I think 5 or 6. The Puerto Rican Festival of New Haven tomorrow is happening on the New Haven Green from 12 to 8. And Broken Umbrella Theater is having a fundraiser at their new space on 446A Blake Street. They're trying to raise, I think, $100,000 to unlock $500,000 state grant to build out their new space. And that's kind of all I could remember right now. But there's there's lots of cool things happening all the time around the city.
Right. And that's one of the most beautiful things. And I love how you also, keep people in the groove of what New Haven is going to do. And, as it does move forward and continue to blossom and pop out. Is there anything that you missed from, like, we'll say you've been rocking it I love in New Haven for 13 years, on the digital form. Is there any particular things that you wish were still around back in the day?
Yeah, I mean, yes. Like the smaller mom and pop places, right? There's a lot. There's been so many. But I don't know. I guess it's I don't know. I think overall New Haven is in a good place right now. And if if you were somebody that lived in New Haven in 1920, you'd probably be upset at the New Haven of 1950, right? Whereas we look at that as the distant past. So I think it's all perspective of where we are along the continuum. But it would be cool. Go ahead.
Before we go any further down that continuum, we actually I do have to rock and roll. I want to have more conversations. I want to build with you. But it has been an honor and a privilege. Chris Randall, I love New Haven. I love newhaven.org. I am Easy Blues. Prestige got eaten by a donut and could not be on air with us for this end. But you have been listening to WNHH New Haven 103.5 FM. This has been Behind the Brand, and we love you all so, so much.
Thank you. Yes.
Wondering what to write about, trying to figure out what it's all about. Existentialist, am I worth anything or just a scout? I don't know.